Folks, welcome to another prospect interview here on No Ceilings NBA. I am Maxwell, and today I'm joined by one of my favorite under-the-radar players in college basketball this past season, who is now gearing up for the NBA draft. He is Demarcus Demonia from Texas A&M-Commerce. Demarcus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. So you're one of those guys that, like, I kind of felt like I found gold when I came across you as a player. So I'm going to give my backstory and how I came across you, and then you can kind of tell people what your game is like. But during the season, I like to just try and find players that are under the radar. And there's some, statistical things I try to look up and whatever. And I came across your game, and I watched, I think it was a game against either UNC Asheville or somebody early in the season where there was like a prospect on the other team I was watching. And you really jumped off the screen because you are a lot more athletic than a lot of guys that play at the low major level. And this, so like you pop from a skill standpoint too, but the athleticism was kind of the icing on the cake. And I ended up mentioning you in a column, and you're one of those guys, people type your name into Twitter, just a search bar, and you get a whole lot of exciting highlight plays. So for people who've never seen you play before, how would you describe your game?
My game, I feel like I could do it at all three levels. But, throughout the season, it was just mostly either the three or going above the rim. But, I could do it all kind of. And then on both sides as well, like I could guard 1 through 5 as well. So wide range.
For sure. So I always like to kind of get into a player's backstory and kind of what brought them to the dance, so to speak. What got you into basketball growing up? Because if I'm not mistaken, I did a little bit of research, and if I'm not mistaken, you were kind of like a late starter in terms of playing basketball, right?
Yeah, I really didn't start until about my 11th grade year.
That's wild. So how does that happen? Like, how do you not play and then all of a sudden be like, I'm just going to start playing basketball?
Actually, I played football, like, at first. It was like my 9th grade year. And like 10th grade, I took a year off. And then the basketball coach at Friendly High School, Coach Brian Brooks, he used to like always see me like walking around and stuff like that. And throughout the time, I wasn't always that tall, so I had grew going from 10th to 11th grade. He asked me to come out, try out for the team, try it out. He liked what he seen, and it just went up from there, really.
So you're around 6'6" now. Were you that height then? Like, or were you still growing at that point?
I was still growing. So from my 10th to 11th grade, I was probably about 6 foot to 6'1", then I grew about to 6'3", 6'4".
Got it. So what was it like to be kind of thrown into the deep end of like varsity basketball as somebody who'd not played before?
I was kind of nervous because, first time playing under the whistle, and then on varsity, and then I'm starting. So it's like, it's a lot, but, I was always wanting to take on a tough challenge, no matter what it was.
Yeah. So you went the junior college route at first. What was that jump in competition like, going from, you've barely played, now you're playing in high school, and now you're playing at the junior college level?
The competition was a little different. It was, good competition, but I feel like I played up to like my standards, like what I'm supposed to play. I never played down unless it was like a kind of like a worse team. I kind of got that little problem, but I got out of the habit of that. But the competition wasn't too much different from the high school level, but
yeah. And then so from there, you end up transferring to Texas A&M-Commerce. And what was it that led you there after playing at the JuCo level?
So, I was supposed to go to Central Michigan at first, but, COVID had happened, and it was just like from JuCo, my first year there, I was taking like some non-transferable credits the whole year that I didn't know about, because everything was just so new to me. So I was taking non-transferable credits, signed to Central Michigan, wanted to visit, loved it. But then I had to decommit, and then my assistant coach, Shane Scott from Allegheny, he, dug up some things, and the guy, Ted Rawlins, actually helped me set up classes and stuff through like Straighter Line that Texas A&M-Commerce actually accepts. So being as though with COVID and everything, doing those classes online and being at home and stuff like that, just, you know, all joined in together. And then they was reaching out to me every day, stuff like that, just showing their interest in me. So that's how I got there.
Awesome. And then it's kind of an interesting story in a way. So you start off, you're this late starter in high school, you play at the JuCo level, you go to Texas A&M-Commerce, which at the time was Division II.
Yeah.
And then Texas A&M-Commerce becomes a Division I while you are there.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like to go from playing for a college it's Division II and then all of a sudden you're Division I?
It was a great experience. You know, one that I never would have probably saw myself in, you know, years before. You know, coming into high school, starting out so late, and then you know, going D1, playing against Texas, and you know other like that. So I mean, it was a great experience going from playing D2 schools to, you know, playing top teams.
Yeah. Was there anything that stuck out about that transition, whether it was like speed of the game, size of the opponents, level of shooting? Like, what was the biggest thing that you felt like you had to adapt to going from D2 to D1?
Definitely, I say the size of the players and you know just their speed and you know just their ability to take that next step. Just you know everything's just the next step. Like going from D1 to the NBA, it's just that next step. Everybody's bigger, stronger, faster, shoot better. You know, it's just their job, so they have to perfect their craft at that.
For sure. So we're gonna kind of get into the nitty gritty as far as your game goes at this point. So one of the biggest things that stands out about your game is your finishing at the basket. So per synergy this past season, you were 70.4% at the rim, which is an astronomically high number. That is a very, very good number to be at the rim. Can you talk about your mentality as far as attacking the basket? Because it's one of those things that just like from a scouting standpoint, like we see guys all the time where maybe they're a little contact averse. They don't take the best angles at the basket. They kind of clam up when they get to the rim. How did you evolve into being like one of the most potent finishers in college basketball?
I was always taught, you know, like attack the basket, attack the basket, attack the basket, you know. So being as though it's that, and then you know, going to the next level of everything, you have to be able to finish through contact, you know, finish if you want to get to that next level and things like that. You know, that's what coaches look for. So really is always, and then like a mindset thing, like, oh, I'm gonna dunk on them, or like the highlight plays, you know, things that you know really get you out there.
Yeah. And I think there is, like I mentioned earlier, like there is sort of a perception that a lot of times if a guy's coming from a lower major school or a mid-major school that like generally there's not that athletic. Is that like a stigma that you found yourself having to deal with? Like as you come up through the pre-draft process, like people kind of sleeping on you and like not anticipating you being the athlete that you are?
Yeah, at times.
Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier your ability on defense. So you can cover multiple positions, really good playmaker. You can stick with guys. You can get steals, blocks, the whole nine. What do you think you do best at defense? And like on an NBA team, what kind of positions do you see yourself defending most often?
I say I could possibly, you know, guard the 1 through 5 still, because you know, doing some pro runs this summer, I was guarding like footers and things in that nature, and you know, it's just holding your ground. But I feel like I can still guard the 1 through 5, even you know, on the NBA level. It's going to be a lot harder because, you know, but I'm always up for a challenge.
And what do you think is like the best part of your defensive skill set? Is it like making plays off the ball, locking somebody down? Like what would you say is your strongest suit as a defender?
On ball counter, you know, like stopping somebody, making those, you know, key big plays that give us that spark, that run. Because after that, you know, it might be a dunk on the other end or something like that for me, or whether it's off ball and you know, playing strongly off on someone a little bit. I could get there back quick enough to get my hand on the ball and you know, dunk, giving that spark for us to get going. So I say, you know, a little bit of everything.
For
But I
sure.
say on ball probably.
Okay. And then one of the big things I think that kind of gets overlooked if somebody hasn't watched you play and they're just looking at the stat sheet might be your shooting. Because this past season you shot around, I think it was around 29, 28% from three.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch the film, I think you're a much better shooter than the percentage would say. So looking at the synergy data, like basically like a third of your threes were unguarded. So most of the time people are smothering you when you're guarded on the perimeter. You're not getting a lot of easy looks, being a top option on your team. And you are able to hit threes from NBA distance too, which is a huge thing to have going for you. How do you feel about your game as a shooter, and where do you kind of see your shooting at as you get ready to go to the next level?
I believe if I didn't take so many bad shots as I did throughout the season, because it's like I had the green light to kind of shoot any shot that I want, but it's like in the type of system that it was, most people didn't want to shoot, or I just had the ball in the last 5 seconds or less, and had to put something up. Or like the beginning of the season, I made a name for myself early. Like I stood out, and teams started throwing the two people at me, boxing one, things like that. So, but I feel like I, put the work in. I'm doing better at shooting now. I feel like I could get that percentage up now to about 40-ish. On a good note, probably 50.
And for sure. And then another thing that I liked about your game is your passing and your decision making. You do move the ball pretty quickly, which is an important thing as you go to the next level. Coming into college with kind of limited basketball playing experience, how has the process been as far as developing as a passer and a playmaker for others?
See, I always wasn't in high school like that, killer mindset to go score and things like that. So that's the time, like, I worked on my passing, but I always had like a good IQ for things. And, just some players that I watch with the passing abilities and stuff like that. And they, like I said, like in the beginning of the season, I was kind of like, that killer mindset to get mine, scoring ability where I'm scoring from all three levels. And then they started throwing a boxing one, two people at me to try me. Like I know like it's always someone else open. So like I just play my game to open up everyone else's game. And that's just the mindset that I had throughout the year.
And so now we're at a point where college career is in the books. You're getting ready to play professional basketball now. What are the things in your game that you've been working on the most as you get prepared to make that transition?
For the most part, I've been working on ball handling and shooting a lot more, even off the dribble, catching shoots, things in that nature.
For sure. Well, we appreciate you kind of taking the time to come on here with us. Where can people find you if they want to follow along on your journey, follow you on social media?
My Instagram is DMAC 4 C's and 2 underscores, and that's really pretty much what I'm on. I don't be on Twitter a lot, but you can find me on there, follow me, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure for an opportunity like this.
For sure. We're glad to have you on here. We always say we cover the whole hog of the NBA draft. We love covering everybody from 1 through 100 on a big board. So we love having on players that are kind of getting overlooked, and then you start to see their names popping up, getting NBA team workouts and things like that. So it's a pleasure to have you on. I hope more people get familiar with your game, because you're a very exciting player, and you're a really good player too, and that's why we have you on. We don't talk to guys that don't have a chance. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everybody tuning in on our YouTube channel and listening to us on the No Ceilings NBA podcast. So you make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and thank you for joining us.